Hello and welcome back to On Air with Dr. Pete. I'm your host, Dr. Pete Economo, and I hope you're still enjoying summer and resting and recharging. I know I'm doing the best I can to stay outside because here on the East Coast, we have to enjoy this because we don't get this all year round, unlike my guest today, who in LA can enjoy this. And so a little slower summer pace for us here on the East Coast. But I'm excited to introduce you this guest. This is Eric G., an accomplished author and creator of Utopia Project, a personality-based life coaching business. He's a UCLA graduate. We're going to talk about the Big Ten, how they joined the Big Ten this year, and use his personality typing method to better the lives of thousands of people around the world. His website, the Utopia Project, has over 500,000 users, and his impactful coaching has been used by Hulu, Disney, private universities, and more than 40 districts throughout the U.S. So, Eric, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. And, I love the reference to the Big Ten. That made me cringe a little bit, but,
Well,
with
why?
our
What do
performance.
why? What about the
Well,
UCLA and the Bruins? Did
we got
you get?
knocked around a bit this year. We got knocked around a bit, but, next year will be great. I
Yeah,
complained about the NIL, but we got a great quarterback through the NIL. So, we'll see
yeah.
how that goes.
NIL is hurting us here on the East Coast. Well, I guess it's similar to LA, but not as much. East Coast is so dense in like schools and just stuff that like in a 20, 30 mile radius, you could have like two huge universities, which I guess you guys have, right? Because you have like Stanford or UCLA. What are the
Well,
big,
there is another school in Los Angeles, but I don't really mention them too much. But
is
yeah, there's
that
that,
USC?
that other crap school. No,
That,
yeah, yeah.
that, that
Just
other
kidding.
that
Kidding.
other Big Ten school.
Yes, that other Big Ten school now. They got knocked around a bit too. So, I'm happy to see that all the time. So,
Look, I am a professor and do this at Rutgers, and so I know knocking around. I
ooh.
mean, it is a part of growth. And if you mentioned your brother earlier, and as I'm one of three boys, and you get knocked around a little bit, and it helps grow.
Are you were the youngest, middle, or oldest?
I'm the youngest,
That's painful.
so definitely knocked around.
Yeah, definitely knocked around, which makes you stronger.
It makes us stronger. That's
That's what I
exactly.
told myself when I would beat my brother up. It makes you stronger. Trust me. You're crying now, but in a few years, maybe 30 years, you're going to appreciate this.
So tell us a bit about yourself. So I know you graduated from UCLA. We've already got into that, and you studied
Mhm.
English, literature, and screenwriting. And so, what did you do when you were first out of college?
First out of college, I was a starter at a golf course. And people are like, "What? Like making minimum wage?" It's like, it was like the one of the best jobs I've ever had because
Yeah.
you get to meet so many people.
Yes.
And, obviously I wrote a book on personality typing, and I don't think I would have been able to do that if not for that job or other jobs where I'm interacting with people constantly and trying to engage with them and, trying to
Yeah.
like figure out who they are because I want to make that the best experience for them. So
What is so a starter for those that don't know at a golf course?
they're like a host or a hostess at a restaurant. So
Yeah.
they are important in that they're the people who people try to bribe so they can get on the tee. So,
I was a bartender.
that's
So
that's you see a lot of people then.
talk about personality typing. So
Oh
that's why
yeah.
we always joke and say that's what led me into becoming a psychologist.
Oh, you heard a lot of people's problems.
You hear a lot of people's problems. Do, do starters hear a lot of people problems? Like if they're having a good day or a bad day or a
Oh,
good team?
it's always happy. They're always happy, but then they're always upset about their game. They're like, "Oh, it sucked today, but I had fun, but I
Yeah.
sucked."
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So all right. So your career has obviously since evolved. So tell us about that.
Yeah, it was funny. So then I worked at the golf course, or the golf course. Yeah, the golf course, and I was on the mic,
Yeah.
and I would say like, next up on the tee box, the John threesome, and
Yeah.
someone said that I had a great voice for radio,
Yeah.
and they said also that I had a great face for radio. I think that was an insult, but so then I started doing a radio show, like a little internet radio show before podcasts in the mid aughts.
Yeah.
And I started also at the same time because that didn't really pay the bills. I
Yeah.
also started teaching or tutoring,
Okay.
and through that I started learning about the education process, and then
Yes.
through that I started my own education company.
What were you
And
tutoring?
we were doing math. We were doing math and English, so it was for the
Okay.
No Child Left Behind. But
Yes.
really, I was kind of making it my own, right? Like I had
Yeah.
they didn't have us on a tight leash, so I could kind of do what I wanted.
Who's the they in that?
That they would be what was the name of that company?
Oh, you don't have to say. Oh, it was
Oh,
your company, so you could say the name of it, but
sorry, it was so there's a previous company that I worked for, and then I branched off
ah,
of that and
and did
started
your
my
own.
own.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Well, because I've had a lot of conversations about No Child Left Behind, and so someone listening might not know what that is, and so I think it's one of those things in life that it's like it's good in theory, but not in practice. I don't know if
oh
you agree
yeah.
with me. Okay. Yeah.
Oh no, 100%. With that, I'll be honest, like we had like so many companies that were competing with us when I started my own company, and
Yeah.
people are competing because the students get the tutoring for free through
Right.
No Child Left Behind. And
Right.
a lot of people are trying to take advantage of the parents because let's
Sure.
face it, some of the parents are not the most sophisticated, and so they
Yeah.
just try to give them free stuff with
Yeah.
the parents not knowing how valuable that free stuff is versus the tutoring, which was way more valuable and expensive.
Nice. Yeah. So this starter at the golf course kind of contributed to becoming a personality tester, but so you got into personality training.
Yeah, like so the interest started when I was in high school and I felt like I was a big weirdo. Even though I guess I wasn't treated like a weirdo because I could pass.
Yeah.
But I think in general, like I was like, wow,
So
I'm
pass as
not
a
really.
non-weirdo?
Yeah, I was like, how is it a non-weirdo or yeah, passer
Yeah.
or passing.
Passing.
And
Yeah.
yeah, so I just got into that because I was like, well, I feel really different than people. So let me figure out this stuff. And I started reading up on the different personality typing methodologies. And yeah, so then I brought it back to when I started owning or I owned the tutoring company and started
Yeah.
working with a bunch of kids. And that's when we started developing my own methodology.
And so how did you develop that? I mean, can you give us a little bit of break that down for us simple people?
Oh, well, I'm much simpler than that, so I'll break it down even simpler. Yeah, I was really familiar with MBTI, which I think a
Sure.
lot of people like 16 personality types. So I really evolved from that. So my personality typing methodology does have 16 types as well, but how
Okay.
you diagnose and get to those types is very, very different.
What's the
Um,
biggest difference?
I would say I focus strongly on values, and from those values, core values, I split people up into four different. I call them packs
Yep.
because I use animal types for my
Yep.
personalities.
I saw that.
Yeah, it's
I'm a
don't tell
dolphin.
me. Don't,
Oh.
oh, I was gonna guess that. I swear to God, I was gonna guess that.
Well, we'll
Yeah.
never know now.
Ah, gosh. Like I love guessing, and yeah, and you definitely have that dolphin energy. You're coming off like very welcoming, open, but also
Yeah.
like that's an interest of yours, right? It's psychology and
Yeah.
understanding people. You
Yeah.
know, um, where other types that are more open and friendly are more like, oh, let me help you get married, or like let me hook you up with people. Like
So
that's a totally.
how did you come to the animal test then? Like what was that about?
Yeah, like I think animals are just easy to remember for people. And I mean, if you
Yeah.
can, it was tough to find like archetypal animals, like for some of the personality types, like a shark, you say shark, a fox, people are like, okay, I get that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Narrow-minded, shark,
Yeah.
focused, fox, sharp, clever, James Bond, suave.
Yeah.
Others were a little bit harder. Like I'm like, a humpback whale,
Right.
like, but it does have a reason.
You call me fat?
Yeah. Oh gosh, the elephant. I'll be like, they're like,
Yeah.
what's my personality type? An elephant. So
Yeah.
wait, you're saying I'm fat?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
no, I'm just saying you heard. You bring people together.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
Yeah.
that's where the animals came from.
Elephants are beautiful. Like
Yeah,
just from
exactly.
like a family systems perspective and
Mhm.
just really energetically and um
Oh yeah.
so if before now again we'll never know the real truth to this, but like if you were in your head trying to figure my animal out, what was like a second or third one that you were maybe thinking?
A baboon. So
Uh-huh.
because obviously I would pick animals that all fall under the same pack, right? Because
Right.
if you fall in the same pack, then you're gonna have similarities, but then they'll manifest maybe differently.
Hmm.
I would have probably said a baboon. Yeah, because baboons and dolphins within that, I call them the shaman pack. They're a lot
Yes.
more outward with their energy. They're a lot more. I hate to say extroverted because I don't
I
totally believe
know.
in
I know.
extroversion, but
Yeah.
like they're a lot more warm. They're warmer and more vocal versus the other types.
It's funny you say that because I mean, most when I teach this stuff, like with Myers Briggs type indicator, MBTI, like we said earlier, like it's not absolute. And
Mhm.
so in grad school, I was definitely a stronger E than I am today, and so and
Mm.
one of my one of my professors always loved, and she cracked herself up about the P or perceptive, because she would
Mhm.
say when she would refer to it, she would say my P-ness. And she thought that was hysterical, but I guess that's just psychologists. But
Yeah, that's a psychology joke.
I get, but you got it.
Yeah, no, I
Uh,
got it. That's how nerdy I am. No.
I love that. Can you tell pretty quickly about like what animal somebody is?
It depends on the person. I always say too, like the quicker I can tell, then actually they're probably more emotionally healthy because
Yeah,
I think their personality kind of comes out, even if it's like a more quiet, reserved type, it
yeah,
usually projects too, right? Whereas like if someone's not totally sure of themselves, it's like kind of
right.
hard to tell.
How does that interfere with like family dinners, dating, meeting
Mm.
people, like new? Yeah,
I wouldn't say interferes. I think it's like really fun. It's a really fun conversation topic. The funny thing is, the reason why I wrote the book was I was actually writing a lot of screenplays. I shuttered my company or I sold it, And
Yeah.
then I started writing screenplays because that was my academic background, and I wanted
Right.
to get back into writing and joined a writing group. Went to a bar after. Everyone started talking about the animals because I was like, oh, by the way, I think you might be a dolphin or you might be a panda. And people started getting into it. And a friend of mine was like, you should write a book on this.
Yeah.
And I was like, maybe not. And then she put it in a TV show that she wrote for. And so then I was like, okay, now I guess I have to put it in there because it seemed to be interesting to people.
Wow. And so are you still doing some of that, right? Like what's your writing like now?
Right now, I mean, technically, I'm supposed to be working on a follow-up nonfiction like book, and I am working on it in the mind. I
Yeah.
wanted to do like a relationships
Okay.
book based on the animal
Yeah.
types. But I'm taking a little, it's not, I want to say a segue, a little sojourn into, I'm writing prose, so I'm writing a novel right now at the
Oh,
moment. Yeah. So I'm getting into
wonderful.
the creative stuff. Yeah.
I like that. It's probably good for your, I mean, writing is such an art. That's like a stupid thing to say because of course it is, but like people don't necessarily realize that.
Yeah, well, that's super frustrating, right? I think artists in general get frustrated when people don't realize how much work goes into their craft, right? They're
Yeah.
like, oh, you're just talented, right? And you just do
Yeah.
it. And I can do it because I'm artistic too, because this is my creative idea. And it's
Yeah.
like, no, it took a lot of work to get to that point.
Yeah. Like writing, writer's block and writing books and dealing with, publishers and editing and
Oh, yeah. Well, the agent query process, no one loves that process. It's so brutal. And,
right.
it's just rejection, rejection, rejection.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So that's all right. So obviously, the world that we're living in is like filled with many different types of personalities. And you've said it that diversity is what makes humanity strong, which I like. That used to be something we could say without wondering if someone would judge us or cancel us.
Oh,
But maybe we have to be a little bit more careful about that. But so share your thoughts about that, like about the diversity of personality.
yeah, I think it's one of those things where I think theoretically it always sounds good, but
Right.
sometimes our natural instinct, especially because like, look, it's going to seem like I'm picking on this particular pack, but half the population fits into one pack and they like
Yeah.
safety and security. So I
Yeah.
think when your main core desire and value is safety and security, it helps to, in a way, put people into boxes, but then in a weird way, also try to get them to be like you because that makes you feel safer. You're like, oh, this
Right.
person's totally different. You can't be like that. And I
Yeah.
think that kind of pervades society. So I think the more diversity we get of opinions and also the more freedom we have to voice those opinions and be different, I think
Yeah.
as long as you're not hurting anyone, I think it's better for society, right? Because we get different viewpoints.
Hopefully. I mean, that's, good listening skills and flexibility. I want to get to your book, The Power of Personality, in a moment. Because it just popped in my head. I actually was doing a recording yesterday on someone else's show. And this was like a quant stats person and was asking about masculinity and femininity. And I said, well, as a quant stats person, actually, that is the most like unreliable index of the MMPI. So the Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory. And I don't know if you've ever studied that one, MMPI.
No, I have
Okay.
no.
So psychologists, this is like the most studied personality test out there. It's like 500
Oh.
and some questions, and so, but the masculine feminine index is the most unreliable. So I'm sort of curious when you're talking about these 16 types in the boxes. Do you have a sense of like the sort of social construct of masculine and feminine, and sort of how that plays into some of your personality work?
Yeah, it's such a great question because, obviously we have biological differences, but in
Right.
terms of personality, I found, especially working with thousands of kids a year, it's like really there's no like, obviously they say like men are more aggressive and, yada yada, and women are more, or girls are more passive, or
Right.
not passive, I should say, what's the like creative or more diplomatic and better working
Yeah.
with people. I'm like, God, I lived with two women who were very aggressive and were very like not diplomatic. And maybe
Yeah.
that helped me because I was like, oh, okay, this is how women can also be while also society telling us they should be this way, right? And I think that helped me a lot. I'm referring to my older sister and my mom who were very I would say stronger
Yeah.
personality types.
Good for them.
No, I respect that. Having an older sister who's always yelling at you and bossing you around, but like
Yeah.
not like in that older sibling kind of way, more in the kind of
Yeah.
like I'm just gonna bully you kind of way. I
Oh,
think that was helpful.
like you were doing to your brother.
Yeah, you know what did Bertrand Russell say? Like the older kids or the younger kids do it to the ones younger than them because the older kids bully them.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah.
the way of the world.
Uh,
Yeah, I think that's I think with men, with especially with like cultures too, right? People are
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm from this culture, so we're like this. I'm like, really? Because you could find statistically, right? You can find like
Yeah.
tons of people who are from your culture who are not going to act that way, and if
Right.
they are, they're just pretending.
That's an interesting point. I almost want to digest that further because, we in psychology would talk about self as context, contextual behaviorism. And so that's where multicultural competence comes in because there is permission to act a certain way because of your cultural context. But what you're saying is that yes, and personality like varies even within those cultures.
Oh yeah, I always use the example of like if you're like a let's say a peacock and a peacock personality type and they love touch and they love to like hug and everything and you grew up in traditional East Asian household,
Right.
you're gonna feel a little constrained, and
Right.
it's like you're supposed to act a certain way. And if you flip it to like a more like a type that like a shark that wants their personal space and
Yeah.
they're like in a Latino culture, they're gonna have relatives hugging and kissing them like, no, no, like please stay away.
Right.
And I
Right.
think it kind of sucks for personality types like them because they're just put in a situation where,
Yeah.
it's not the best.
I saw something up on that recently where it was like, just because you're a hugger doesn't mean I need to be.
Oh, that I like that.
Yeah.
Or vice
Uh,
versa, just because, you're not a hugger, come here.
yeah, but it is like a real evasion of personal space in
Yeah.
that example. Yeah. So all right. So tell us. So your friend motivated you to write The Power of Personality, sort of because they put it into a screen, right? A
Yeah,
screenplay.
they put it into one of the episodes of this TV show they were working on, and
Okay.
like they use animals, and the people are taking a test. It was a bottle episode of Mythic
Yeah.
Quest where they're all
Yeah.
like doing this test, and she changed the animals, of course, to make them funny.
Yeah.
But I'm like, oh, like, but everyone in the writers' room really liked it, so I was like, oh, okay, maybe I will like, and I could pitch it that way to agents, and
Yeah.
and so that's kind of what I started doing, and it only took a few months to write the book, but obviously the agent and publishing process was quite a long time.
What was your process like in those months?
In the months that I was writing it.
Yeah.
It was well, so I already had the website, so a lot of that was structured in a way where I could use some of the stuff on the website.
Okay.
And already in my head, with a nonfiction book like that, I just thought, look, I'm going to teach people to become a test,
Yeah.
basically. So,
Yeah.
because I'm not a huge fan of like, cookie cutter tests because I mean, they are the same. That's what they are. So I want people to learn like kind of more the craft of personality typing and just
Mhm.
kind of you read the book, ideally you'll pick up that and like utilize the years of intuition that everybody has in meeting people
Yeah.
because and hopefully utilize that to become the test basically.
You also re-examined the assumptions around birth order. So we've already talked about the cultural stereotypes, but what about birth order? Because you and
Yeah,
we already
oh.
started this episode with this.
All right, we're like, yeah, I was a bully apparently and you were the
Yes.
bullied.
Yes.
Do you have any younger, because you said you're the youngest,
No,
right?
yeah,
Oh, you're the youngest, you have younger
youngest.
sisters. Oh
Nope.
wow.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, with birth order, it's okay. This is my hypothesis with birth order, which I found is since half the population are that type that value safety and security, if you have an older sibling who is that personality pack,
Right.
then they will definitely be what we think of as the older sibling, like parental,
Right.
responsible. And so that fits half the time. So I think most people are like, oh, yeah, it works because half the time people are seeing that among their older siblings.
Right.
I myself did not have my older sister was not in that personality pack. She was in the hunter pack. I call them hunters for a reason.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
aggressive. They go for what they want. They like their freedom.
Yeah.
So as an older, I never saw her as like the parental responsible figure. I saw her as the sibling who wanted to get in trouble, and I would join her, and we'd have fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what are the like what do you just spell about being last born or about the youngest child?
Well, I think the lastborn is so the flip side. Generally, lastborn is thought of in. I mean, I know I'm throwing out all these terms for my book, but like the hunter
Sure.
pack is like all about excitement and freedom and having fun. And I think lastborn tends to get that, like, oh, they're the ones you get to like, misbehave and stuff, as opposed to the older sibling. But it's the funny thing is, I also got a reverse of that because our youngest sibling, so there's three of us. My younger brother, he's a gatherer, so he values safety and security. So he's the responsible one. He's the conscientious one. He tells us like, hey, it's mom's birthday. What do you want to get her? And my
Ah.
sister and I do not respond to his text. And then he's like, okay, I was thinking of getting her this. No
Yeah.
response. Okay, I got her this. And then we respond. We're like, okay, we'll Venmo you.
Venue,
Like,
yeah. I was gonna say
yeah,
that, insert Venmo.
yeah. Here's my tag or whatever, my QR code.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so like it's funny because that's totally in reverse, right? And I feel
yeah.
like probably people have experiences like that as well. And I saw that a lot working with a lot of different students because we'd work with a lot of siblings, and you could see that dynamic
Oh,
wasn't always the case. It wasn't the oldest always like the responsible one.
you've really made personality typing fun.
I hope so. It should be fun. It's about people, and people are fun. Yeah, I think it's fun. Everyone loves talking about people. Everyone loves the chisme.
Would you ever like talk to parents or the families about this when you were doing the tutoring or in that life when you were
The funny thing is we use it most. I would interact with parents most when we were recruiting them to sign
Yeah.
up with us. And
Yeah.
so I do it at fairs where like, oh, and I can see your children are like this, and we'll treat each of them differently based on their
Sure.
personality type, because
Yeah.
obviously different personality types grow in different ways and need different things.
Yeah. I love that. So maybe you tell us like a success story, because I know that your whole business model is about empowering people to into the truest, best version of themselves. So like how have you seen this really transform somebody?
Yeah, I'll do one that a client that I'm working with right now, and because this is a type of client I often get, which is I would mention the shaman pack. They
Yeah.
they they seek self-identity and self-knowledge, and when they're
Hmm.
younger, they can feel like weirdos because they're like, wow, like I don't really want. Grades are kind of important, but kind of not, and I actually don't like to go outside as much and have fun. I mean, I do, but I don't.
Right.
So I have a student who actually told me the other day, she was like, and she's 12, oh no, 13. You don't want to get that wrong. She's 13, and she's like, I don't want to grow up. And I
Oh,
was like, oh, like there's nothing wrong with saying that. I know exactly how you feel.
yeah.
You are going to have to grow, but you don't have to grow up in the way you think you do and you've been
Right.
told.
I
And I
love
found
that.
like those types of students I've had the most success with in terms of like letting them know it's okay to be themselves. And I totally get what she means by she doesn't want to grow up into this like boring, like quote unquote responsible, person that her parents are always trying to tell her to be.
Yeah.
She can be herself. And I
That
find that a lot with my students.
that is so validating. How much do you think like the students have changed since you started this till today, and like the impact of technology?
Well, I mean, it is in terms of, so I use a lot of like entertainment to like, so that
Yeah.
they can analyze characters in a show. If they can do that, then they can start analyzing themselves. 'Cause I think when we try to analyze ourselves, it's a lot harder.
Yes.
So I'm noticing that the big thing is like, I use Game of Thrones all the
Okay.
time. And they're like, I'm like, so and I'll use like movie references. Like, so let's just use, what's the latest movie you've seen? And they're like, I haven't seen a movie in like 5 years or 4 years. I'm like, what do you do? Well,
Yeah.
okay, TV show. No. I'm like, what
No.
do you watch?
YouTube,
Yes,
TikTok.
YouTube. I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, like all these influencers. I was like, come on, like there's like some great writers that are creating these great
Yeah.
works of art on television, and no, and that's probably the biggest change I've seen is all the influence of social media in
It's
terms of like what
wild.
people consume.
Yeah, that's a really great example. So you offer life coaching and also writing coaching.
Yeah,
So
oh, sorry, good.
no, go ahead. Tell me about that.
Oh, I started writing coaching at first because that was my academic background. And that's when
Right.
I led into the life coaching because I found that a lot of times writing is not a lot of times, almost all the time, writing really isn't about structure. It's not about grammar. It's not about using all these fancy SAT words that
Yeah.
kids always think that they have to do. It's
Right.
more about just people having a voice and expressing the way that they express the best version of themselves put on
Yeah.
paper.
Yeah.
And you can't find that until you find yourself. And that's where the life coaching came in.
I love that. It's important. I mean, it sounds like an acting. I kept thinking about, actors have to do the same thing.
Oh yeah, like figuring out how they're gonna like project,
Exactly.
right? Because
Yeah.
everyone does it differently.
Yeah. I find I have the opposite problem, because I had a student who writes for a living, but then writing a dissertation is much different than writing for a living.
Mm.
Like, writing for a living, you want to be, fun and cute and all that stuff. And dissertations like are not really that fun and cute. Like, and they're not meant to be. Like, they're
So you have to, so
academic.
you have to tell them no, be less cute and fun.
Yes, yes, yes. Just be academic.
What does academic sound like?
Oh my goodness, I don't. Are you asking me that? Because I will answer it.
Yeah, no, that was a question. That was not a
As an
rhetorical.
academic, I mean, it's disconnected probably a lot of times. Like, I believe this is one of my biggest issues with academia is that it's beautiful. It's important that we educate and grow, and I think that's always what higher ed was about, was growing. I think that, like, so the way technology comes in, you have all these memberships of different journals, and all the same people, like say with like funding, are reviewing each other's work, so it becomes very insular. And
Mm.
they want to talk about dissemination today in 2025 as we're recording this, and it's like, what are they doing to disseminate? And so one of the grants I wrote like, podcasts and like weekly interviews on, national television. And they're like, and that was like, that they like reduced my score because of that. They're like, oh, he put that as a scientific contribution. No, that is a scientific
Yeah.
contribution. Who is reading your journal?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like The consumer, right? It's
Who is the consumer even? It's just same people that have the same degrees and the same research as you, or maybe they're graduate students. So like we're not reaching people. So I think that is my mission. That's why I have on air with Dr. Pete, is like trying to really disseminate this stuff out. And I love how you did this in a fun way. Like we were able to talk about Myers-Briggs, Minnesota multiphasic, like other things that are out there, which is science based. And now people could say, hey, this might be why I'm having, unhealthy relationships.
right, connecting it to a context, right? Where if you just look at it,
Exactly.
like you said, disconnected, it's just like, okay, I think when we think of school, I find that with a lot of kids where they're like, they separate school and life. And they
Right.
just don't think of those as two, like, no, I do well in school and then I have fun here. It's like, no,
Right.
they're the same. Life is
Yeah.
fun. School should be fun. You're learning and it's all integrated.
Absolutely. And the brain can't actually separate that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so
We try
that's
to, but
it can't. So we have a thing in sports, we say like the way you do one thing is the way you do all things. That's a little too absolute for me, my Zen self, but there's some truth to this. Like there's truth to like your brain doesn't know, oh, I want to feel good here and not here or whatever.
right.
Yeah. Like safety. I want to feel safety in this place. My brain's going to create a story about it. It doesn't work that way.
I always find that with academia too. Like, so for some reason, I was watching an old show called Masters of Sex.
Yeah.
I was because I'm writing my novel and it's a little bit more nuanced. I wanted to like
Yeah.
get back in that nuanced mindset. But it's funny because in that interaction, they had that same thing, and it's based on a true story where the guy's like,
Yeah.
"No, I want to put this in a research paper," and she's like, "Wait, but we could have it in a book." And all
Right.
the masses are going to be reading it, and we want them. Those are the people that need to know this stuff. Why put it
Absolutely.
like in a journal where only like doctors are going to read it?
Well, there it is. Thank you. Thank you for that, Eric. This has been fun. And I know we could probably talk a lot longer, but we're already wrapping up. So where can people find you? Because you do some coaching virtually as well, yeah?
Yeah, you can find me on projectutopia.com, and that's YOU like YouTube, so
Mhm.
projectutopia.com. And if you want to take the test, I believe I sent the link over, but that's another website. And people are like, why do you have two websites? And it's like, that's because one's a WordPress and one's not a WordPress. I don't know. Like I'm not a software engineer, but it's the
Yeah.
other way around. Utopiaproject.com is where you can find the test. And, so you can buy the book anywhere you order books. If you want to give Jeff Bezos your money, find it on Amazon, you know.
He's had a big wedding.
Yeah, if you want to help Jeff Bezos pay for, even though I'm sure he could afford
I'm
it,
sure
but
it's already paid
yeah,
for.
yeah. He'd have put that wedding on layaway.
Yeah, probably not. Eric, thanks so much for being here. It was really and for your insight around personality. You do make it fun, and this was a great talk.
Oh, thanks so much. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, so you could head over to utopiaproject.com and we'll have all those links in the show notes if you want to take your personality test today or learn more about Eric. Thank you for listening at home. We appreciate your constant support as always. We encourage you to like, share, and follow. Everything's at officialdrpete.com. I'll see you back here next week. So until then, spread a little kindness and stay well.